VID fights it, but naked dressers, improving health. Aaron Siri, managing partner of Siri and Glimstead, civil rights, informed consent, high stakes litigation, author of Vaccines Amen, which I am holding up here right next to my head. You can follow Aaron on X. Aaron is spelled Aaron, Siri, SIRI-SG. Aaron, Siri, SG. Aaron, welcome back. Thank you for joining us.
Great to be here, Dr.
So, since we last spoke, you have traveled quite far, quite wide with Miss Megyn Kelly and Joe Rogan. I feel not worthy now, but I'm glad they were listening to you. Megyn particularly, I think, got... go ahead.
I was on Joe Rogan, but not Megyn Kelly.
Oh, I heard her talking about you then. I heard her talking about some of your stuff. But so maybe she'll have you soon. So, any event, bring us up to date if you can on sort of what this plan is over the ACIP and what the changes are with. Before we get there,
sure.
I just talked to Ryan Cole, and he reported to me that Idaho now has no mandates. That the medical freedom movement has been on the march there. Are you aware of that? How did they get that done? Are other states doing anything similarly?
Well, my understanding is that the Idaho legislature passed a bill which would have banned discrimination in the state, period, on the basis of your immunization status, or as I would say, the way God created you, okay? So if you wanted to just, exist as God created you. But the problem is the governor vetoed it, and I believe it's now cycling through again, is my understanding of where that stands at the moment. But Idaho already has, exemptions and so forth. So even though there are still mandates, there are exemptions available in virtually every context.
All right. So how do we have an ethical position to mandate vaccines that don't prevent transmission? Is that a viable position to require people? And then what I see is people using hand-waving arguments about herd immunity or something. But if something isn't actually preventing transmission, it's preventing infection perhaps, or reducing the impact of infection, is there any ethical standing for requiring other people to get those vaccines to protect me?
Not only is there no ethical argument, it is the most incredible rights-crushing overreach of government that you could ever possibly imagine. Look, maybe you want folks to address heart disease. It's the number one killer of Americans today. Almost 900,000 Americans are dying. They're flooding our medical system. Remember that argument? Flooding the medical system, right? And so, does that mean the government can come in and mandate exercise, mandate you eat well, mandate heart medicine? Everybody would intuitively recognize that as being a complete overreach of government's rights crushing, because that's your choice. The whole idea of freedom, the whole idea of individual rights is that you can take risks, right? That's the whole idea. And the greater risk always is ceding those rights to the government. We've learned that from the long arc of history. So, no, there's no ethical argument for it. And in fact, it's the opposite. In my view, it's unethical, it's immoral, and it's illiberal.
And then we have the issue of liability for drug companies, right? And injury compensation for those who are hurt. Is that moving in any direction?
So, by the way, doesn't that add to your whole point of, is it ethical, right? So not only do they want to mandate a vaccine that doesn't stop transmission, they say you have to get it, and then if you're harmed, you can't even sue the company. So, your audience knows already about the 1986 Act.
Compensation for it, nothing. You get nothing for it. In fact, you get shamed. We shame patients who say they've been vaccine injured. It's incredible.
Oh, well, we see it all the time in our vaccine injury practice. You go to your doctor, you say, look, my kid's not doing well after a car accident. My kid's not doing well after this, chemical exposure. My kid's not doing well after a vaccine. You just get a nasty note in your file and sent home. We see those nasty notes when they finally come to our firm to bring a claim for them. But yes, to your is there any potential to change that reality was your question. So the immunity given to vaccine manufacturers in 1986 under the National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act, that was an act by Congress, that's a federal law. that law would need to be repealed by Congress. There's currently over 1,000 pharma medical lobbyists, and there are, as far as I know, 0 vaccine safety lobbyists, so they're probably going to win that. So that's probably going nowhere. There is a bill introduced every year with a few dozen sponsors in Congress to repeal the 1986 Act. Ron Paul just introduced one, but that's not going to pass. However, under the 1986 Act, a vaccine only is given immunity if it is routinely recommended by the CDC. Once it's routinely recommended, then it gets put on the vaccine injury table, and that is why they went bananas when Secretary Kennedy and the CDC, you understand, right? Now, once they made the Hep B vaccine, the Hep A vaccine, and so forth, non-routine, all the Secretary of HHS had to do, Secretary Kennedy, was take it off the vaccine injury table, and they would lose that immunity. And that is what, no doubt, drove them crazy and why they're fighting so hard to restore the schedule.
Understood. And for me, although that's a concern, I understand that, and I don't have a strong feeling about that, but I just, the mandates themselves are what I have the strongest concerns about. And the organizations that are the most egregious transgressors, in my humble opinion, were places like in colleges and universities and maybe the military even, who forced people, or any employer that forced them, but I just particularly the fact you have young, healthy people and you're forcing them to get a vaccine that they don't need. Now we know at a risk of myocarditis, so 0 benefit, only risk, and they're protected by the PrEP Act, is my understanding. How can
I'm not afraid to name an enemy. It's the billionaires and the politicians who sell us out.
At Blue Seal Farm and Home, we believe in the kind of life that's built around family, community, and the passions that make every day meaningful. Whether you're raising backyard animals, growing a garden, or sharing your heart with horses, we're here with hand-picked products and local support you can count on. We're proud to be part of a connected community, neighbors helping neighbors, sharing knowledge, and celebrating the lifestyles we all love. Because here, it's not just about what you do, it's about who you do it with. Your best life gets better here. Visit BlueSealStores.com for a location near you.
we undo all?
Well, in terms of the immunity given for COVID vaccines, which is different than 1986 Act immunity, you just said it, the PrEP Act immunity, that Secretary Kennedy could repeal with a stroke of a pen, literally. And I have no doubt that left to his own devices, he would do it, but I have no doubt the White House will let him. Excuse me.
Why?
Why?
Because I know they love Warp Speed. I know he loved that, but is it going to besmirch that history?
I mean, let's think about it this way.
Somebody should go in there, Aaron. Humbly, it's you. You should go in there and you go, President Trump. This was an extraordinary feat of. Here's how you do it. You go, President Trump. This was an extraordinary feat of science. It really is remarkable what they were able to do in such a short period of time. But that history, that extraordinary effort, was completely. You've got to come up with a strong word. I want to say like bastardized or undone by the Biden administration, forcing people to get these vaccines. That if you hadn't had that history, this would have been a glorious success, and people would have chosen to get the vaccine, and some people would have gotten injured, but it wouldn't be because they were not informed or that they were mandated to do so. They would have, because you feel very different. You went, yeah, I get the risk, I get it. Ah, damn, I was one of the people that got hurt. As opposed to, it's fine, it's safe, take it, and if you don't take it, you can't get on the airplane.
Well, you just told him, and we'll see if that persuades him. I suspect that it will.
Play it back.
Play it back for respect. Look, think about how incredible this is, okay? The first vaccine came out in December 2020. We are now over almost 5 years. It's been 5 years, and they have told us it is safe. It is completely safe. They've studied it every single which way. So if it's so safe, why do they need the immunity? And even more incredibly, think about this. Even if they lifted the PrEP Act right now, it doesn't mean they can go backwards and everybody who was injured can sue. The PrEP Act technically would probably still apply. So you're just talking about going forward. Think about how incredibly how unconfident how you have to be in this product to now, 5 years later, still not lift the immunity for the very few people that are taking it now. There must be some serious cause for concern. So mandates are a problem.
Yes.
But this immunity is an incredible problem because it disincentivizes the company from making safe products. Let me put it this way. If Vioxx was a vaccine, it would still be on the market and it would still be considered safe and effective. And you would be an anti-science loon if you disagreed with that.
Potentially. Vioxx, I have strong feelings about it because we were kind of aware it was doing stuff, but it was such a good medicine that, again, might be worth the risk reward. But the problem was we weren't seeing all the data. That's the problem always. We have to make decisions that are tough all the time, risky decisions. But if people are deluding us or telling us there's no risk, we are so far in the wrong in terms of our practice of medicine, as opposed to being able to communicate to the patient exactly what the risks are and why we're recommending it, and together deciding whether or not we want that individual to take that risk. That's what medicine is, and we've so centralized it and taken away from doctors, and then public health thing on top. What are we going to do to take the teeth out of public health? That's the thing. That's why the Idaho thing caught my attention. I felt like it was pulling some of that down, the extraordinary ability to essentially tear up the Bill of Rights.
Take the teeth out of public health? I don't want to take the teeth out of public health. Look, if you go back over the last 126 years, right, since the 1900s, we have seen an incredible decline in mortality. And a lot of that you could ascribe actually to public health. Better cleaner water, better sanitation, better living conditions. A lot of these things, better acute medical care, right? A lot of these things can be ascribed to public health endeavors. Right? The problem is that when public health goes over that line from being about medicine and public health and gets into politics and gets into law and gets into taking away people's civil and individual rights with mandates, if they would just go all the way up to encourage you, try to persuade you and stop, they can maintain their legitimacy. But they don't realize by taking that extra step and crushing the rights of the few people that often don't want to take this product, because remember, those who are going to take it are going to take it. They don't need the mandate. So who are you mandating it? Yeah. You're often mandating the very folks who have a real reason to not want it or not need it.
Right. Or properly informed and decide they don't want it. Yeah.
But to be clear, I do want to get government. I do want to get government out of medicine. I think that there's a lot of too much entanglement.
Oh my goodness. And well, just generally hang on a second. Caleb, we want to ask that question. You're jumping in here. By the way, if anybody has any questions for Aaron Siri, I'm surprised people don't want to go. There are people calling. So we'll get to Barbara in just a second. But Caleb, you want to ask your question?
No, I wanted to discuss also the charter, like the article from the New York Times that was about the new charter that you were proposing for ACIP and to remove these like vaccine mandates basically at a federal level is how I read it. If you could explain what's going on with that, because that looked very promising.
Sure. So the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, ACIP, that's the vaccine committee in the CDC that effectively creates the CDC vaccine schedule. After Secretary Kennedy came into office, he put and created a balanced committee, in my view, with folks who are vaccine zealots like Meisner, to folks who are, and as they should be, actually want to be critical and evaluate and be skeptical about these products because it's the last line of defense before they're unleashed on millions of kids. So you want a very skeptical ACIP committee. Should be their role. In any event, a federal judge struck down the committee and said that it didn't comply with various federal laws, and so to undo what the federal judge did, Secretary Kennedy revised the charter of ACIP and has now expanded who can be on it and then this way will avoid the issues raised in this federal lawsuit brought by the American Academy of Pediatrics that resulted in essentially eliminating the current committee. So that new charter for ACIP was just adopted, and I assume that Secretary Kennedy and the White House are in the process of selecting new members of ACIP or reconstituting it.
Could any of the members who were there previously, can they be
Right,
brought
Caleb.
back, any of those people, or are they all just...
I don't see why not. They could probably bring them all back. As far as
Nice.
I don't see why they couldn't.
Where are you getting the most traction? Where are you finding, your feel like there's movement?
I'd say the area that has the most movement is cultural cognition around these issues. People are beginning to start becoming curious and interested and starting to actually read about them and start thinking about these products versus believing them in them. And I think that, ironically, what's that?
We're moving out of the realm of faith into the realm of at least cognition, if not science.
Yes. Thinking about it before instead of just believing. And I think that's critically important. When you think about changes in the legislature or changes that happen in the courthouses, where the public's views on something go is where the laws often go, in the courts and in the legislature. Gay marriage was not going to be found by the constitutional right by the Supreme Court in the 1800s, early 1900s, so forth. What changed? The Constitution changed? No. It was the cultural cognition around the issue. And so I think that's where you're getting a lot of the traction. I mean, some of the changes that are occurring at HHS are great. The government moves very slowly, and obviously those changes can be reversed by a federal judge, as we just saw, or by a next administration. So what's the residual? The residual are the folks who have started thinking about these products, not just believing them, so we can have rational, logical policies about them.
I like the cultural cognition. It's what Abraham Lincoln used to call the public mind. This concept of the public mind. We call it public opinion, but I like cultural cognition even better. Barbara, you're on with Aaron Siri.
I'm Megan Fox, head professor at Dr. Squatch's Foundation for Odor Excellence. Gentlemen, class is in session.
All right!
Here at the Fox, we know men need a deodorant stick that's just as high-performing and functional as they are. Sometimes even more so. Natural deodorant, 72-hour protection to help you feel like a man and smell like a champion. So say goodbye to stinky pits and hello to natural odor excellence with Dr. Squatch. Let your stick do the talking.
One fan, I
somewhere.
enjoy your podcast. Wait a minute.
Hey,
Dr.
you're on.
Drew?
Yes, you're on with us.
Oh,
Yes,
wait.
go right ahead. Did we lose you? Oh, hold on. Oh, she dropped off.
I think she got so excited to talk to
Literally,
you,
it
she
says
dropped
call
off.
back. She got too excited. I think it might have been you, Aaron. I don't know about me.
I don't know. She said you're...
But we appreciate you, Barbara. And there's somebody else getting screened
Such
right
enthusiasm.
now from Hartford. John, if you want to get in here. I'm asking, I have certain preoccupations. The mandate is one of them, and the institutions have mandated these things. But the other thing is why, if we're going to have a vaccine, and you want it to be an mRNA vaccine, why do we have to be wedded to this pathogenic protein? Why can't they go reformulate it for the nucleocapsid or something else? There may be a reason. I don't know. Maybe it's not as immunogenic or something. But it seems like, well, you're asking for trouble. If you get the protein that we know causes all the trouble, and you're going to have a mechanism that produces it in an unrestricted fashion potentially, man, you're asking for difficult consequences.
If I took a stab out of the blue, I would say this: that when you're get into the belly of a big corporation like a big pharma company, right? How do they make decisions? They make decisions on what's going to increase the bottom line, because you own stock, Dr. Drew. Everybody you listening to this show probably owns stock. And where do you want your stock to go? You want it to go up. So if you want your stock to go up, so does the shareholders of the company, so do the employees of us. And so when they sit there and they're designing the vaccine, they're designing the clinical trial they're going to engage in, they want a product that's going to get to market as quickly as possible. And if this design and the clinical trial was most likely to...
Originally, yes. Absolutely, originally, but I guess they have no motivation to change it to the core nuclear capsid now because people are they've got their safe and effective army out there that doesn't want to change it. Barbara, you're still there. Barbara, you're back. That is. You want to talk to Aaron Siri about college-age kids? Go ahead.
Yes, please. So my daughter, a healthy daughter, was forced to get 2 doses of the Pfizer to attend her university. And right now, thank the Lord, she is healthy. But my deep concern is prior to receiving the vaccination, and I only know this now in the retrospect, I am positive she had just had COVID. So she had COVID in July. She was forced to be vaccinated in August to attend school. So really, from a medical perspective, should I have any long-term concerns with vaccinating a healthy child who had just recovered from COVID? Is she at risk long-term for fertility issues or any other medical issues?
Yeah.
Thank the Lord right now.
I'm going to put you back on hold. Barbara, you're asking a question that we're going to struggle with, but it may not have a definitive answer. So I'm put you on hold. We're going to struggle with it for a second. Go ahead, Aaron, you first.
Oh, well, I mean, obviously, you know this. To assess any specific individual, you need to know all the facts and circumstances for that specific child. You'd want to see testing. You'd want to see.
She's asking kind of a global question. She's asking. So here, let me frame the question as I understand her. I had COVID. I'm immune, at least for a short period of time, perhaps. And then the school mandated a vaccine on top of that. We used to worry that was going to cause problems. I've not seen problems from that phenomenon of vaccinating after natural immunity. Who knows what that could do, but it did not seem to be. I'm not seeing lots of cases where vaccine injury is necessarily enhanced by that story, that history. Okay, either the vaccine or the COVID could have some long-term consequences, could have some fertility issues associated with it. One more than the other, or maybe just one or the other. But we haven't done the studies to be able to answer her question meaningfully because there's constant fear that we're going to uncover something terrible about the vaccine, it seems to me. That's why it seems to me we don't do these studies.
Well, I mean, without speaking to any specific individual case, there are some data we can look at if we're going to look at data. For example, the VSafe data.
Right.
VSafe is was the safety system that the CDC rolled out along with the rollout of the COVID vaccine in December 2020. 10 million Americans signed up to VSafe, and they were given a form to fill out every day for 7 days after they got the shot, then every week for 6 weeks, and then 3 more times after that. The CDC collected data from these 10 million Americans and then went and published like 40 studies saying COVID vaccines are safe. But in those studies, they primarily relied on VSafe, but they only disclosed the what folks reported for the first week after getting the vaccine, not for the first 6 weeks, just the first week. And they only gave the check-the-box data. So we actually, on behalf of VID and Pharmacy in Action, we sued the CDC. And after 2 years, we finally got all of the underlying check-the-box data and the forms, the free text field data. And when you got that free text field data, there was out of the 6 million entries that we got, most people are not filling out the free text field. And a lot of those were turned into Medra codes. And in any event, long story short, there were over 50,000 reports, 50,000 instances of people taking the time to write in some type of serious, often menstrual or related issues, and so having ovarian failure, having menopause early, having all kinds of bleeding issues, and so they're not writing that in because for willy-nilly. And these 10 million people who signed up for VSafe, they were mostly signed up in the first few months after the rollout. These are the vaccine enthusiasts. These are the last people that probably were going to complain about issues from the vaccine.
Can we mention also, as a mother, Dr. Cole mentioned nattokinase earlier, and I'm not trying to peddle, supplements, but there is something called spike support that TWC has to offer that Dr. McCullough, is behind. And when my daughter went out and got a vaccine, unbeknownst to me about a month or two ago, I said, listen, just take the spike support every morning on an empty stomach and, just take the whole bottle. And that according
One
to...
at a time. Or two twice a
it's
day.
like
is really
two
what
or...
it is.
Yeah, but the point is, there is help out there if you're concerned, and you can find it at
That is a reasonable recommendation, Barbara. That's something
DWC.
you can talk to your doctor, whether it's from the vaccine or from the again, it could be either or both.
Yeah,
In
so
either
it's at
case,
the-
what you want to do is protect yourself from that spike
Find it
protein.
at the wellness company.
That's
They have
what
all
makes
that.
sense to me.
It's a big
Aaron,
support system.
it is always inspiring and good to talk to you. I am so happy when you stop by. Thank you for being here. How was it after you spoke to Rogan? Did you get inundated?
Yeah, it was quite a jump in terms of everything. Yes. The funniest
it's
part is
the one
folks
thing right now.
Yeah.
Go ahead, the funny part?
No, please. It was the one thing that what?
I would say it's the one thing that still exists in media that used to be like if you were in the Johnny Carson show and Johnny asked you up to the couch. Rogan has become like that now, where your life changes because you went on the show.
Yeah, it's incredible actually the reach and the number of folks who watch it, because the guy came to fix my air conditioner. He's like, I just watched you, and then the guy it was like, and then the guy came to fix my path light, and he's like, I just saw you. And so it is amazing actually. And then of course you get the folks you haven't talked to in 30 years, and everybody wants to reach out. So it was interesting. It was interesting, and but the good thing about it, substantively, it was an opportunity to be able to actually talk about the core issues around mandates and the immunity and so forth, and a platform that I could never have imagined being able to share that message 7 years ago on a platform that reached that many people. So it was, in that regard, it was a great opportunity.
It's great, and Joe's so smart and curious. I'm sure he just enhanced the whole delivery for you, because he's a vacuum cleaner. He absorbs what you're telling him.
Yeah, it was fun too.
Well, there's the book. Is there anything else coming out? You got any new books or anything in the works?
Oh no, one's enough.
Okay, and where do you want people to go to find you? You can go to AaronSearOfficial.com, and actually that's where you can find everything. I typically, would post on Twitter. I've also got a Substack, and I do encourage everybody to learn about these products. That people say all the time, I'm so busy, I'm not going to research every product out there. I can't research in depth the car I'm going to buy or the stroller I'm going to buy. And I say to them, look, for the most part, the market with a lot of wrinkles will correct for issues with those products over time. They'll get sued because the airbag's not as safe. They'll get sued because the roller cage isn't good. The stroller causes the problem. So almost every product you encounter, it will improve over time just because of those economic forces, with one exception: vaccines. So unfortunately, it is the one product you do have to do your own homework. And so even if you're really busy, I encourage you to do it. Obviously, I'm biased. I like my book. But you can also get free resources at ICanDecide.org in the Get Informed section. This book, the reason I like it, you the very first time I met you, you went, you don't know how different these guys are when you put them on the stand under oath. What they have to say is different when their hands are held to the fire, and you're chronicling that in this book. So that's what I love about it. So to me, that was again, some scales fell from my eyes. Like, oh, they talk with great confidence, but they're not as certain as I had thought. And you get to see all that in real time.
Yeah, it's very different when it's a talking head on TV saying public health statements versus when they're sitting in a deposition under oath and they have the evidence put right in front of them, actual primary source evidence, and you're like, okay, this clinical trial for hepatitis B vaccine, how long was safety monitored after injection? And here's the FDA document right in front of them. What are they going to say other than, yep, it was 5 days? Because they have to. They're forced to admit the truth. There was no placebo, was there? No. Because in that context, say, on TV, they'll say, oh, it's thoroughly, they'll say all kinds of random stuff. Bottom line is, there's what public health authorities tell you, and then there's what the evidence actually shows, and that is basically why I ended up writing the book after doing this for 10 years. I didn't go into it thinking there was that divide, but, after hundreds of lawsuits and endless depositions, that chasm has gotten wider and wider. It's still shocking to me.
Wow.
I think people will agree when they actually look at it themselves.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I told you I was involved in some hepatitis B research back in the day, and we never imagined this for 1-day-old children unless you had somebody with